Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem video. This is a postmortem of my Blitz chess game number 50 where I played the French defense. So here, let's turn the board around. And my opponent opened with e4. I play e6, the French defense. He continues d4, and I play d5. This is the most common setup, and then knight c3 is the most common move here. But that does allow the win hour, which is bishop knight c3 and then bishop b4 pinning the knight, and leads to a lot of complications. So knight d2, the Tarrasch defense, is a way of avoiding that. I played c5 here, and my opponent continued with c3. Not the most common move here, but a logical move anyway. It's showing up the center. If we back up, most common ideas are e takes d5. This move gives black an isolated queen's pawn. So play would continue, e takes d5, e takes d5, and then d takes c5. And so I'd be left with a single pawn here with no pawns on either side, the isolated queen's pawn. And that is something that white often plays for. It gives him a target to attack, but it has advantages too. It gives black easy development for his pieces and a lot of space, so I'm not afraid of that line. The other way of playing would just be to develop the knight to f3, but my opponent chose c3, not a bad move, and I continue with knight c6, and we're pretty much out of the opening book here, I guess. After knight e2, yeah, we're out of the book. So let's go back and take a look at the notation page. And you see with knight e2, the computer thinks black is doing fine. Maybe it even slightly prefers black, but this is basically within the range of even, and after a few moves you'll see the advantage swings back to white, probably because I'm not playing the most precise moves, but they're the logical moves. Just developing my pieces, doing an exchange here to free up a few squares for my pieces. Knight c5. The computer doesn't really approve of that one, but there's a lot of congestion here, and sometimes it helps to move the knights out of the way so the bishops have some squares to go to. And we both castle. Plays king h1, maybe not strictly necessary, but a useful prophylactic move to get the king off of this open diagonal here. Reduces tactics later in the game, so a good precautionary move. And f6, I'm counterattacking the center. So this is your demonstrates pretty well the main idea of the French defense, which is white sets up a big center and black tries to undermine it, first with this move c5 and then with the move f6. So you're attacking the center from both sides. He decides to take, and all this is doing okay. This move here, knight e4, is maybe a little too ambitious. I guess the knight is not entirely stable there, and after a couple moves he goes after it. And now I didn't particularly like the idea of exchanging that knight, so I just retreated my knight to d6. The computer didn't really approve of that. It thinks I should trade knights first and play something like queen c7. It's an interesting idea. But I just retreated to d6, and now white has a decent advantage. But I missed a chance here. This is funny. I was looking at this and I thought, oh, I take the knight and he takes back with a pawn. It forks these two pieces, which is a common theme in many openings. But here the pawn is not supported, so I could take the knight, he takes back with a pawn, and I could take with the bishop, and I'm just won a pawn. Although if you look at the evaluation, you'll see here, let's go ahead and put it on the board. Knight takes, pawn takes, and bishop takes. And so I'm a pawn up, but white has a lot of compensation for the pawn. He's got these excellent attacking pieces here with the bishops, and the queen can easily jump into the game, and his rook is already over here, and the knight is well posted in the center there, putting pressure on my pawn on e6. So this would be fine for white, maybe a slight advantage. So the pawn sack would have been okay. It's funny. I didn't even notice he was sacking a pawn. I retreated my knight trying to take this way. And he plays queen h5, and now I'm in trouble. You can see the evaluation swung there. And there's a big threat here on h7. Just queen takes h7 is checkmate. So I've got to do something about that. And the only move the computer approves of here is knight to h6, and that's logical. Gets this knight out of this awkward f7 square where it's not doing a whole lot, and blocking the queen's view of the h7 square. So that would be the way to defend. I played h6, and now with accurate play it should be game over. And it's not too hard to see the best move here. Basically there's 3 pieces that could go to this g6 square. That was the problem with the move h6, by the way, is it opened up the square g6. So any one of these 3 pieces can go there, and you have to, when you're attacking, you have choices like that. You should look at all 3 choices and choose the one that's the strongest. In this case, queen g6, clearly the strongest move, because it threatens checkmate, and it's a hard threat to meet. The only way to avoid the immediate mate, notice that moving the rook out of the way doesn't really help. It's a mate in 2 after rook e8. Let's take a look at that. That looks cute. Rook e8, queen h7 check, king f8 only move, and knight g6 checkmate. The knight covering these 2 squares. So that's a neat checkmating pattern, and shows the power of this centralized knight. So the way to survive the longest is to play knight takes, and he can still play queen h7 check, force the king here, and then he can take the knight with a pawn and win a second piece because the bishop will be pinned by the rook and the pawn is attacking it. So he's a whole piece up in that line, although the computer thinks it's even stronger to take on c6 first. Either way, white's clearly winning. So h6, he played knight g6, and this he has the advantage still, but this lets me it releases some of the pressure. I move my rook out of the way. He plays f5, and after f5, it's suddenly an even game again. So f5 is not the best way to proceed with the attack here. Again, the computer likes knight takes c6, followed by knight to e5. So getting back to this nice centralized location for that knight, and making some more threats with the queen, no doubt. So f5 lets me back in the game. With those 2 moves together, let me back in the game. So I start exchanging some pieces here. And I want to say something about that. You often want to exchange pieces when you're under attack because you feel like getting rid of the attacking pieces is going to relieve some of the pressure. And sometimes it is absolutely necessary. But the thing to keep in mind is that you're also giving up your defensive pieces. You're using your defensive pieces to eliminate his attacking pieces, and you have to look at the situation that remains. You know, if he's got enough attacking pieces, he's actually happy to see you trade off because you're eliminating your own defenders. So it's often a theme in these attacks, is that even after white has sacrificed material, he's sometimes not afraid to exchange off a number of pieces, as long as it leaves him with a strong attack. So you have to calculate these things carefully. I did okay so far. Those 2 exchanges were good. I just exchanged 1 piece too many here. So I went ahead and took the bishop while I was on a rampage of exchanging pieces. And the computer says it's better to save the bishop and play something like bishop b5, counterattacking his rook here, and buying some time to bring other pieces into the game. Bishop b5, rook fe1, and queen to f6 is the computer's idea here. So anyway, that would have been a better way to play than taking. I took the bishop, and I took back with the rook, and now I'm losing this pawn over here. I play the move knight d6, just harassing his rook and just trying to get out of it. That was just not a good square for the knight. I'm trying to get it to a more active post. I was thinking maybe over here on e4 would be a good spot for it. He grabs the pawn, and I play my queen to f6 with the idea, first of all, I'm still defending the knight, and then maybe getting a battery on the f-file threatening checkmate. So he plays knight e5, I threaten the checkmate. He plays h3 to escape, and I go rook a to d1, just trying to get all my pieces into the game. So you see, it's white still has the advantage, but it's no longer, you know, a clearly winning advantage. It's just a slight edge. So although if he could exchange all the pieces off, he might be able to win with this extra knight, so I do have to be careful about exchanges here. And in this position, there's a neat tactic. And you can see the computer gives away the first move of the tactic, knight f5. But what's the follow-up to that? Assuming, now the line given by the computer is knight f5, queen takes f5, queen takes, rook takes. So that's sacking the exchange. So why is knight f5 so strong that white has to sack the exchange? That's your little quiz. If you want to think about it for a while, pause the video and determine for yourself why knight f5 is the best move. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the board, knight f5. And the first thing to notice is that white's rook is under attack. And if he takes, in order to escape that, just to trade it off, you have this move, knight to g3 check, forking the king and the queen. And so that's why that was a strong move. So if we back up to this position, you can see after knight f5, it's a double threat. This rook is undefended, so you're threatening to take it, and at the same time you're threatening knight to g3 with the fork. So that's a good move, and he has to give up the exchange here in order to keep playing, and that leaves white with the slight edge. Leaves black with the slight edge, I mean. So black is effectively a pawn up at that point. He's up the exchange, and white has an extra pawn in compensation, but the computer prefers black there. So it's interesting. I had a similar idea, actually. I played the move g6, and you might think this is crazy. Why can't white just take that pawn? And but when he does take the pawn, he went ahead and fell for it. It says the best move for white is just to move the queen somewhere else, g4, e5. And that's sort of what I was expecting. I didn't think he was going to fall for this tactic, but I was just using that to give myself a little more space. But he went ahead and took the pawn, and now I hope you see the idea. And this is an instructive moment in the it's kind of a lesson about tactics. Once again, it's similar to what I said about the last time. There's actually two ways I can implement this tactic, because the idea is to use the knight to attack the queen, and it's a double attack. The knight is attacking the queen, and the rook is attacking the rook, which is undefended. So if he exchanges rooks, you take the queen. If he moves the queen, you take the rook. Pretty simple. The other point is that he can't move the queen anywhere that defends that rook. That's the other part of that tactic. So a move by the knight that threatens the rook and the queen simultaneously is going to win material. But which of those knight moves is better? Is it better to go here or here? And you can see the move I played was knight f5, and you see the computer prefers the move knight f7. And the reason is knight f7 doesn't allow for any tricks. If he takes the rook, I take the queen. If the queen moves, I take the rook. So I'm just a clear piece up. When I play the other way, when I am in this position, I play knight f5. He can escape just by taking the knight, and he's down the exchange. He's down the exchange, but he's up a pawn, and things are about even. He's up 2 pawns, actually, because he won a pawn here, and he was up a pawn already. So 2 pawns for the exchange is usually enough compensation. So this is an even game, and probably with best play would end in a draw, whereas the other move, knight f7, would have been clearly winning for me. So that's your short tactics lesson for this video. Is there's often when you have a tactic involving a knight or a bishop too, there's often 2 ways to implement it, because the knight has, from this square, it has 2 ways to attack that square. And if you would imagine a bishop, there's a similar kind of thing where a bishop has 2 ways of attacking a square often. And you should really look at both of them and choose the best one when you get into a situation like that. Okay, so let's continue. Queen takes f5. He brings out his rook, and its development is pretty normal. I'm just chasing his queen away, and I managed to get some slight edge here, ganging up on that that pawn, and I'm going to win it back. He plays queen h6. Yeah, so queen h6 was just a mistake. At this point it says queen b3 check here, and king g7, just continuing to chase me around, keep all his pieces active. After queen to h6, I can take the pawn on d6, and he resigned at this point. So he got tired of this game, I guess. He could still play on. I was in worse shape than this, and I managed to come back. So there's no telling what further mistakes I might make. Although he does have to be careful to defend this knight here, which is under attack. Anyway, that was the end of this game. He challenged me for another game. Just for information, I managed to win that one. I think he wasn't in best form for this matches because that was kind of a short game, so I didn't record that one. But I just wanted to let you guys know what happened in case you heard that game started at the end of the previous video, or the challenge. Yeah, that's it for this one. Let me know if you have any comments in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.